Hello, today I'm going to show you how to make a pattern in a rotation format like this. This is quite a straightforward one. This is done in Adobe Illustrator. And then once you've learned the basics, then you can obviously add to it, make it more complicated, add more layers. Okay, so you can, in the end, just make quite sort of very complex images from it. But it all starts from knowing how to rotate the shape around 360 degrees. So if I just open up Illustrator. Okay, I'll just go to new file. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to Window and Layers, and I'm just going to have the layers palette there for now. I am just going to be working on this this bottom layer here. Okay. And then I'm going to go to View and Rulers, Show the Rulers, and then I'm going to just, so with this little black arrow here on this black ruler, I'm going to left click and drag out a ruler. I'm going to drop it just somewhere in the middle. Okay. And then I'm going to do my basic shape. So I'm going to go to the Shapes tool here and left click on the arrow and get the ellipse tool and draw a basic ellipse shape. And then I'm just going to colour it in. So just a basic colour from the swatches. Okay. Then I'm going to go to my selection tool and I'm going to move it so it sort of cuts through right down the middle of the ruler. Now if you want to be like really careful about it, you can go in on your zoom tool, the magnifying tool here, and then you can see how accurate you've been, and then so you can just move it so you think that it cuts through right in the center. And then when you want to zoom out again, go back to your magnifying tool and hold down the Alt button. You see the magnifying glass turn into a minus, and then you can kind of zoom out again. Okay. And then if you're happy with that, you then need to go over to the Rotate tool. So in here you've got, if you press on here, Rotate and Reflect. So it's the Rotate tool we want. And then you need to choose what, where or what center point you're going to rotate your design around. So, for example, I'm going to go down here. Okay, and I'm going to click. Can you see that's the little center point? So everything is going to have a gap, the same gap all the way around it. So you can move this. I mean, you can move the center point to the bottom here of your shape, and everything will come out from that center point. But what I'm going to do here is I want to leave a gap. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to back on my center point here, I'm going to press down Alt and left click. So we need to get it to this little symbol, and then Alt and click. And then you should have your dialog box. Right, you can put in whatever angle that you want to, but if the problem is that obviously there's 360 degrees in a circle, and if you wanted even spacing between each of the each of the elements, then you're going to have to put a number in here that divides into 360. So for example, 36 divides into 360. So if you put 36 in here, you know that because it divides in exactly, you're going to have an equal spacing around your center point. So let's OK that. Okay. Then we need to go to the selection tool, and then making sure that your shape is highlighted. What you're going to do is you're going to hold down the command button, and then you're going to press C button, then the F button, and then the D button. Okay, still with your finger on the command button, don't take it off. C and then F and then D. C, F, D, and then repeat those 3 buttons. You'll see. And that's it. Okay, so they're all equally spaced. That's because 36 degrees will divide into 360 perfectly. So what I'm going to do is, if I just get rid of all of that for now, let's go back. So let's make the shape. Let's move it onto here. Let's go onto the rotate tool and click it on here, okay, and then Alt and left click, Alt and left click. Now if I just put any random number in, that doesn't divide into 360, so just say, let's see, well, let's say 37, okay, because that's not going to divide in. Okay, back to the selection tool. Okay, so hold down the command button, CFD, and again. Okay, so now you can see, because it didn't divide in perfectly, you've then got this issue of having equal spaces and then this unequal space here. Okay, so that's why it's just a lot easier to that's why it's just a lot easier to actually make sure that it does divide into 360. Again, so let me just show you something else. If I just do the ellipse again, and then move it to the center point. Okay, let's go into the rotate tool, and this time let's move the center point right down to the bottom here. Okay, and Alt and left click, Alt and left click. Okay, we'll put one that works, 36. We know that works. And okay. But this time, you're not going to see like a white gap around here. Everything's going to be rotated right from that center point. So Command and CFD. Okay. So it does make a difference where you place this little center point, whether you want, to have a gap in between, like or a sort of empty space in the center of your shapes, or whether you want them kind of gathered. So when you're thinking about that, you need to be aware of where you're putting this little center point. Okay, so just right. So when constructing this one, I'm just going to do the same thing as I did right at the start. Rotation. there, Alt and left click, Alt and left click, 36, OK, selection tool, Command, right, okay, hold on, leave that on, let's go back to here. Middle. Selection, select that. Okay. So what you can do is, well, what I would do now is, now that you've done this design, I would draw a box around it all, and I'd go to Object and Group. And now if you're going to move it, you can, all of it moves, okay, for example. And it's up to you, you can let me just make this a bit smaller, so with holding down the Shift button, just make that a bit smaller. You could do more designs, different designs on here and the rest of the page, and then combine them together. So actually let's make this a bit bigger, okay. Or if you think it's going to be a bit crowded, you can make your design on another layer, okay, but so that's creating another layer. So if I created another layer, I'm on layer 2 now. If I press the I on layer 1, that would make it invisible, and then that gives you a kind of a blank canvas then to make kind of more designs. So let's just go back to layer 1. You could then think about doing something like a completely different shape. So if I go into Star Tool and click, it'll give you this dialog box, and if you want a triangle, for example, then you just put 3 in to that points box, and that will give you a triangle. Let's just change the colour of it. And then let's go to the selection tool, and then we can make it the right size. Okay, just move this one. And then if we move that, if we put that on our ruler, okay, then what we can do is we could, for example, go back to the star shape, get back to the ellipse tool, put the cursor on the center point, and then we're holding down the Shift and the Alt button. You can kind of draw a circle or something like that. Go back to the selection tool, maybe move it down a bit. Okay. Then if we want to do, we can just draw a box and then group that. So now that's one object that will move together. See what I mean? And then what you can do is go back to the rotation tool. Decide where we want the center point. Okay, there's the center point there. And we can go Alt and left click, Alt and left click. What we can do for this one is we know that half of 36 is 18, so that's going to go in. It's going to divide into 360. go OK. Back to the direct selection tool, and then we can go Command and then CFD, CFD. There's the space there, so let's go back. Okay, and it'll go in perfectly. Now, what we've got is, if I group this together, so we don't want these to be separate elements, so we're going to go there and group them. So now this is one object. What I'm looking at really is how closely that sort of, so can you see that's kind of center point of the triangle is, you see it's running through. So I think what we need to do is just it's not going to be perfect because of the angles. I just think I'd like it to be slightly. That's close. You know, I mean, you can spend ages and ages trying to get it perfect. But what I want is that it looks like there's an equal amount of space either side. So let's just. If you're finding it quite difficult to do, you just need to go up to View, and if Snap to Point is ticked, then just untick it, and then that will help you. Okay. Right. So let me just pull it out. So press down the Alt button. Okay. And then what you can start to do is start to combine your patterns together. So I'm just going to make this slightly bigger. And then if you want to, you can, if you go back to your rulers, you can drag a ruler through here. And then you've got a kind of a center point. So if you wanted to say draw a circle right in the middle here, so let's go into our, so again it's going to be the ellipse. You're going to put your cursor at the center point, and then you are going to hold down Shift and Alt. And then it's up to you, because this one is separate. We can then kind of move this around until you're kind of happy with it. Okay, so that's the kind of principle of it. I mean, at the end, you might then just want to group them together as one object, and then everything moves. Okay. Just going to hide the guides. Okay, so that's the principle of making these kind of rotated shapes. I think the thing to remember is that life is a lot easier if your angle divides into 360, because then you will get perfect spacing in between all of your shapes. Okay, and then if you want to do, there's loads and loads of YouTube tutorials and examples out there, and you can make some. If you're willing to spend the time, you will get some very, very beautiful, complex patterns and shapes. Okay, and that's it. That's the end of today's tutorial.